We have our product search showing our user control, showing an image with a label and label with a name, description, and price. The only thing that we're missing here is the ability to double click on our products and be able to actually open up the product details. So to do that, we actually need to stop debugging and let's explore what options we have. So on the product search, previously when we had the data grid view, we had a double click row or double click cell event that we were handling. So our goal is to be able to double click on one of those products that's listed inside of this flow control panel. But the problem is right now the events that we have to choose from are tied to the panel itself. So if we do something like a mouse click or a mouse double click, what we're triggering is a double click on the panel and not a double click on the individual product that we're clicking on. So we're going to actually have to go one layer deeper than the panel, and we'll have to look at the product user control itself. So the product user control has its own set of events as well, and these are very similar to what we've seen before. We have mouse clicks and mouse double clicks. So what I want to do is I want to move our event handler from the search form and move it into the product user control itself. So I'm going to double click on the mouse double click event for my user control and have that spin up for me an event handler. Now the code to actually trigger the event and to have the details come up already exists, and that actually still exists within the product search form. So let's kind of clean up our space a little bit here. Yeah, we'll want to save that. We'll save that as well. And let's look at product search form. So before, the code that we ended up commenting out here was the cell double click event. So we'll go ahead and steal all of this code back and we'll refactor it. So I'm going to take a copy of this, jump back to product user control. This is my mouse double click, and I'm going to just paste it in there, and then I'll uncomment it. Now doing this, I'm going to hold down the control key and hit KU. That'll uncomment everything. Now we're going to have a lot of things that are throwing errors because this code was ripped out of one form and put somewhere else. So I'm not expecting it to work verbatim, but what I want to do is I want to take the essence of the functionality here and make sure that we can make it usable again. So to start out, we have the product search view model, which we're no longer using, so we'll get rid of that. And then here we have the data grid view of products, and then we're looking for if there's a row selected, and we're not going to be worrying about that because if there's a product user control to click on, well, we have a product, so we don't need that as well. This line is also unneeded, so we're really consolidating down to the essence of what we're doing here. So now we have product update form, which is the form that will show as a dialog, and we're passing in what used to be the product view model's ID, but now we have underscore product, which is the product itself, and we can just pass the ID straight from the product. We might even be able to do one better if we want to. We could refactor this constructor to take in an alternative constructor and pass in the product, but if that's something of interest, you can go through and do. And if you do have an interest, hit me up on Slack and I can also walk you through how to do that refactor. The only real gain there is that we're actually eliminating an additional database hit by doing that type of refactor. So we'll take the product ID, pass that in, and then we'll say show dialog. And then once we come back from that show dialog, we were doing a refresh of the search, which we can no longer do because we're not within the context of the search result page. So we could do some different things such as providing some feedback or raising an event from this perspective of the product user control to say, hey, this happened. And we can look at doing that in another video. So for now, we'll just go ahead and comment that out. Alright, so really we've consolidated down to just 2 lines of code. So let's go ahead and hit start. We'll do product search, B for ball. Let's actually just try doing, let's do foot. So interesting. So an issue we ran into is we did a search for foot and it actually appended foot down here again. So let's fix that real fast. So that will be on the product search form. And one thing that we're doing here is we're just adding controls without considering clearing out what's already there. So the first thing that we really need to do here is we need to take our flow layout panel of products controls and do a clear. And this removes existing controls. And now if we refresh and reload, product search, we'll do B for ball again. There's all of the balls. And then if we do foot, now we just get back the one item. So that was a little bit of an aesthetics thing. So now if we double click on here, we get nothing. Oh, alright, so that seems to be very context specific. So if you look here and I double click on the picture box, nothing happens. I was actually double clicking on this label, nothing happened, but I double clicked in this white space and that did trigger the product details to show. So that's somewhat context specific, so we'll have to see if there's a way to work around that to make it so that we can click pretty much anywhere within that user control and get that trigger to occur. So one thing that would be nice to do here with the aesthetics is actually load that picture, just so that way we can see it as part of the product update. So let's go ahead and do that real fast. So we're going to modify the product update form itself. So we'll head and stop. We'll jump into the product update form, and then we'll double click here to come into the load. And we're going to put the load picture right here. So let's start with a picture box. So we'll need that from under common controls. We'll grab that picture box control and we'll drop it right here and we'll size it like so. Kind of square it up, perfect. And that will be, we'll call that pick box picture. Alright, and then jumping back in here, we're going to do that same thing again. So we'll do a stream, stream. We'll import the reference. So pick stream equals new memory stream. And then we'll use product.picture semicolon, and this product is coming from here, so it's getting loaded utilizing this inventory utility. And then from there we will want to say pick box picture image equals new bitmap, and then we'll pass in the pick stream, and that'll take care of that. So now if we refresh and run again, product search, we'll do golf. There's the golf ball, double click, and we still need to set those properties on the picture box. So let's come back here and we want to look for the size and set it to zoom. Let's go ahead and run that one more time. We'll do Alt PS this time. Soccer ball, double click, and there we go. So now we've got the image of the ball and all the details. And we can click save, and obviously that'll bring us back to the search. If we made any changes to the ball, let's say we up the price to $7.85 and we saved it, those changes aren't reflected until we hit the search and then bring back that event handler. So the last thing I do want to address is why I can't click on the picture or anywhere else to get the event to trigger. So what we need to do is to make that work and work successfully, let me jump back to my user control designer, is we need to make it so that any element on this form, I highlight there to kind of be able to see them all, any element on this form needs to also handle the same double click event. So to do that, I'm going to jump back into the load event handler, and I'm going to add a segment here to register double click for all. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a loop, and I'm going to say for each control child in this.controls. I'm going to say child.mouse double click, and then to add an event handler, it's a plus equals, and I'm going to point this to the product user control mouse double click event semicolon. And essentially what I'm doing here is I'm finding every child control within my form, and I'm going to add a mouse double click event, that points to the double click event handler that I'm using for the product user control itself. So by doing that, I register the event click for each one of my controls. So let's go ahead and run it again. We'll say product search, and we'll search golf again. And now I should be able to double click on the golf ball itself, and it loads successfully. If I close this and double click on the word golf ball, it still loads. So now my event is wired up successfully for anywhere on that user control to get it to load. So much better. Another small thing that we could do in terms of aesthetics is we could take this user control itself and we could do something small like when the mouse enters. Actually, let's do two. We'll do when the mouse, let's see. So there's mouse enter or mouse hover. So when the mouse hovers over, we can take this dot back color and we can set it equals, see right now we're using system colors. I believe we're using the control. We can go control dark. And then that'll actually change the background color when we hover into that control. So that way we can kind of get a visual representation that we're in that space. So you can see here that they go dark. Now when we hover out, they're not going light again. So we have to then handle another event that will now take it back to light. So that would then be a mouse out event, or a mouse leave. So when the mouse leaves, this dot back color equals system colors dot control. So we'll go ahead and start product search, and then we'll do B for ball. Now when we mouse through them, and we're running into a similar issue here. When I mouse in and I mouse over the image, I'm not actually mousing over the control. So we're ending up with that issue again where the event handler is only happening on the control itself and not any of the child elements. So it's very interesting how things get a little picky with the way that your context is versus your child controls versus the control itself. So things to always keep in mind as you're doing this work. That little loop would be great. We could use that again to go ahead and fix this issue as well. But for time of the video, it's not worth it. So that helps build some aesthetics, makes the application feel a little better, a little more usable, definitely makes it look better, but still maintaining the functionality that we had previously.